Good morning to all. So, today's class we are going to discuss about multinational companies, and also we have the concept of globalization process in this contemporary international relations. So, first we have to know about the uh, emergence of these MNCs in international relations. So, uh, you know MNC full form. MNC means multinational corporation. So, which means a company or any institution which carries its business in two or more nations in the world. So, actually, its headquarters are located in one country and operates in other countries, like two or more countries, or more than three, four countries. So MNCs may engage in various activities like exporting, importing goods and services, manufacturing different countries. So if we take an example of electronic companies like mobile phones, so Apple, Redmi, Samsung, or other electronics householding products like Samsung. So these all are the like MNCs companies. So the global corporations, these are considered as major driving force of globalization. So multinational corporation is a company that operates in its home country. So its headquarters in one country and operates in other countries around the world. So it maintaining a central office located in one country, which is called it as home country. So if one country like Tata, if we take an example of Tata Industries, so its headquarters in India. If it has branches in other countries, so it operates from the India itself. So this office coordinates the management of all other offices such as administrative branches or factories. So it isn't enough to call a company that exports its products to more than one country or a multinational company. So they need to maintain an operation in other countries and must take a foreign direct investment there. So if we take MNC's arrival in Indian uh, uh, state, so after the economic reforms introduced by the PV Narasimha Rao in 1992 period, there is many foreign direct investments invited from the multinational companies around the world. After that only, there are many MNC companies are arrived here and established their branches in our country. So if we take a definition of these MNCs according to United Nations Organization, a MNC is an enterprise which owns or controls production or service facilities outside the country in which it is based. So, according to international thinker Dunning, a multinational corporation is an enterprise that engages in foreign direct investment and that owns or controls value added activities in more than one country. As we discussed, many electronic companies, many uh, MNCs are operating around the world. So, like many American MNCs are established in all over the country, many Chinese MNCs are operating around the country. So, if we take an example of lots of examples for these MNCs are there. So, if we discuss about the characteristics of multinational corporation, there are several characteristics of are there regarding this multinational corporation. So, to become a multinational corporation, the business must be large and must own a huge amount of assets, both physical and financial. The company's targets are so high that they are also able to make substantial profits. So, multinational companies keep production and marketing operations in different countries. In each country, the business oversees more than one office that functions through several branches and subsidiaries. So the management of the offices or branches or subsidiaries of an MNC in other countries is controlled by one head office located in the home country, as we discussed, like Tata or other Indian companies. Their headquarters are located exclusively in India and operates from this India and to their branches in other states. Therefore, the source of command of an MNC is found in the home country. So multinational corporations keep growing even as they operate in other countries. They strive to grow their economic size by constantly upgrading, even doing mergers and acquisitions. So when a company goes global, they need to make sure that their investment will grow substantially. So in order to achieve substantial growth, they need to make use of capital intensive technology, especially in their production and marketing. So as we discussed, many if we take an example of electronics like mobile phones, we are using most of the mobile phones are manufactured in China. So even Americans also using Chinese products, even Indians also using um, Chinese products. Not only China, many other countries, MNCs also making these products available to the entire the people in the world. So that's what MNCs are operating all over the world. So multinational companies employ only the best managers who are capable of handling huge funds, using advanced technology, managing workers, and running a huge business entity. If we see, there are in Hyderabad, there are many MNCs are there operating for their technical support. They are selecting, they are recruiting their agents with the high qualifications to support their products. So they will give training for the product knowledge and they will assist to their MNCs. So one of the most effective survival strategies of MNCs is spending a huge amount of money on marketing and advertising. So if you see in social media or in televisions or any other platforms regarding these MNCs, they will advertise everywhere. In if you browse internet, there are several ads will you see regarding many MNCs around the world. So they will. It is how they are able to sell every product or brand they make. They are using these type of advertisements in every aspect, every possible way to reach the customers. So if we take the models of multinational corporations, there are several different models of multinational corporations are there. Most of the MNCs are divided into three different models. In the centralized model, companies are put up an executive headquarters in their home country and then build various manufacturing plants and production facilities in other countries. Its most important advantage is being able to avoid tariffs and import quotas and take advantages of lower production costs. So in regionalized model states that a company keeps its headquarters in one country that supervises a collection of offices that are located in various countries. Unlike the centralized model, the regionalized model includes subsidiaries and affiliates that all report to the headquarters. In the multinational model, a parent company operates in the home country and puts up subsidiaries in different countries. So the difference is that the subsidiaries and affiliates are more independent in their operations. So these MNCs are especially established for the economic development. So the private persons or private investors are establishing these MNCs and support their nation's economic development. So we affirm that MNCs have relevance to economic development. So the role of multinational companies in the corporations in the process of economic development is an important issue today. So most of the countries in the world recognized as MNCs contribute in many ways to economic development. So these MNCs enjoy command over enormous financial resources for investment. Their entry into developing countries makes transfer of funds from developed countries to developing nations. So if we take an example of India, in 1992, after we introduced liberalization, privatization, and globalization process, and introduced economic reforms, many international institutions or international corporations, multinational corporations have been arrived and established their branches in our country. So that's what they made investments in India, and also they provided employment to the unemployed youth who are living in country. So they can help to generate employment directly and indirectly. They contribute for increasing the national income of host countries. So they can also help to improve the managerial standards and entrepreneurial abilities of the host countries. So here MNCs are expected to play a key role in the transfer of technology from developed countries to developing countries. This is equally essential for economic development. On the marketing side, MNCs have worldwide marketing network, skills, and reputation. By using them, they help to increase exports of manufactured goods from developing host countries. Most of the modern governments realized the need of MNCs in economic development, including India. For example, the government of India realized that the domestic resources are not adequate enough for rapid economic growth. It felt that it is necessary to invite foreign companies for securing economic growth to attract investment from MNCs. That government made drastic changes in regulations relating to MNCs under the LPG programs, as we discussed in 1992 under the period of Prime Minister PV Narasimha Rao introduced these liberalization, privatization, and globalization program in India. The major liberalization program was introduced in July 1991 to reduce the operational barriers of MNCs in Indian political economy. Under this liberalization process, uh, the governments have made changes in their various existing economic policies like industrial policy, foreign investment policy, fiscal and monetary policy, foreign exchange policy, and export and import policy, etc. These changes in their policies have been initiated so as to allow the MNCs to grow and contribute in the development of the host country, that is India. So MNCs are playing an important role. They have adopted a system that is corporate social responsibility. So MNCs adopted strategies for highlighting their potentially positive contributions by advertising widely their goals for corporate social responsibility. So this corporate social responsibility is a self-regulatory mechanism. A business monitors and ensures its active compliance with the spirit of the law, ethical standards, and international norms under the corporate social responsibility. So, under this corporate social responsibility, information is provided about what the MNC is doing to preserve the environment, to collect and to distribute charitable contributions from its employees, to encourage its employees to engage in public service of various kinds, and to conduct business in an ethical manner. So, skeptics claim that such activities are window dressing and not terribly meaningful, but others argue that the corporate social responsibility can lead to a shift in corporate behavior toward global citizenship, particularly in the area of supporting human rights. So, the globalization process is an important aspect in international relations. So, since 1980s, modern globalization spread rapidly through the expansion of capitalism and neoliberal ideologies. So, the implementation of neoliberal policies allowed for the privatization of public industry, deregularization of laws, and policies and cutbacks to governmental social services. So many programs like structural adjustment programs or these structural adjustment programs were implemented by the World Bank and IMF. These programs required that the country receiving monetary aid would open its markets to capitalism, privatize public industries, allow free trade system, cut social services like healthcare and education, and allow the free movement of giant multinational corporations. So these programs allowed the World Bank and IMF to become global financial market regulators. So as we discussed in previous class, the international institutions like IBRD and IMF are there for this trade system, free trade system, and expansion of MNCs all over the country, especially from the developed countries to developing countries. So the word globalization is used to describe the growing independence of the world's economies and cultures and populations by crossing the borders. So the term globalization gained popularity after the Cold War in the early 90s. So though many scholars identify the origins of globalizations in history, the term globalization is recent in its current meaning and usage. So, according to many scholars, the term globalization is not a new concept. After the fall of the USSR, United Soviet Socialist Republics, globalization became the new phenomenon of debate and investigation with phrase such as global village. So, global citizenship and borderless world as commonplace. So, according to the United Nations Development Program defines globalization as the growing interdependence of the world's people, integrating not just the economic but culture, technology, and governance. In the World Public Sector Report, Globalization and the State, the United Nations acknowledged that it is not easy to define globalization and refers to it is an increasing and intensified flows between countries of goods, services, capital, ideas, information, and people, which produce national cross border integration of a number of economic, social, cultural activities. So, according to International Monetary Fund, globalization as the growing economic interdependence of countries worldwide through increasing volume and the variety of cross-border transaction in goods and services and of international capital flow, and also through the more rapid and widespread diffusion of technology. So the causes, the underlying causes of globalization are often attributed to three factors in recent decades. Like one is international institutions such as the World Trade Organization or the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, in setting the rules for the world economy, and also MNCs and changes in transportation and communications technologies that make it less costly to manage far-flung economic activities, and also key national factors, particularly the United States, central to explaining the recent trend toward globalization. So many point out the advantages and disadvantages of globalization. So if we discuss about the advantages of globalization, there are several advantages are there. The free flow capital from the country to the other, which increase the global investment, and also the flow of technology from advanced countries to the developing countries, thus enabling the developing countries to implement new technology. If we take an example of nuclear bombs or nuclear technology, many developing countries borrowed the technology from developed nations. So, as we even in India also technology borrowed from the Russia. So, increasing process of industrialization, production, and employment opportunities. If we discuss about disadvantages of this globalization, globalization kills domestic business the MNCs from advanced countries utilize the opportunities created by globalization. They establish manufacturing and marketing facilities with their technology and quality front. This leads to closing down the domestic companies, which means the mini scale industries or medium scale industries, or even if we take an example of supermarkets in the present situation, supermarkets are uh, uh, best example for this globalization disadvantage. So they are selling even vegetables also. That's what street vendors will lose their profits for this establishing MNCs in areas. So the process of globalization helps the MNCs to move developing countries which lack adequate laws and regulations to protect human resources and environment. So if you see many foreign countries, many MNCs are arrived in even in India. So, like many developing countries like India, the foreign industries abuse the labor and natural resources. So, their primary motto is profit. So, they can do anything for to get more profit in their industries. So, MNCs produce the products in their home countries or in some other foreign countries and market them in developing countries. Therefore, the domestic industries operations are reduced. This in terms leads to reduction in employment opportunities, and also uh, they reduced small scale industries in developing countries. So the globalization also uh, widens the gap between the rich and the poor, because the competent people with innovative skills, efficiency, etc., get abnormal income, while other average people have to work for even a minimum wage. So, MNCs establish their manufacturing facilities in the developing countries. They exploit the natural resources of developing countries. So, uh, and sell the products in other countries. So this process of globalization ultimately results in commercial colonialism by the superpowers like the United States of America and European Union. Commercial colonialism ultimately results in political colonialism, national sovereignty at stake. The critics of globalization contend that globalization results in shift of economic power from the independent countries to the supranational organizations like the World Trade Organization, European Union, United Nations, etc. So the sovereignty of the democratically elected governments is undermined as the policies are formulated and implemented mostly by the bureaucrats. So if we see the political dimension of globalization, with the emergence of globalization, state and governments become much more dependent on international organizations, bilateral and multilateral contracts. In the agenda of globalization, the key theme is delimiting the functions of government and of public intervention. So, the loss of functions by the government departments means expanding the functional domain of private and voluntary organizations as alternative delivery system. So limits were also set to the discretion of public servants through the new public management paradigm, with its stress on managerial accountability and clearer political control through a sharper distinction between politics and administration. So there are divergent views also there. MNCs have a political impact which may differ from issue to issue or country to country. The means of political influence that MNCs employ also differ. MNCs can leverage their bargaining power by offering either inducements are promise of new investment, and deprivations are threats of withdrawal of investment. So the globalization, after the introduce of this globalization, there are several consequences also there, and the role of MNCs led to globalization. So there are clearly many benefits are there with this MNC led globalization. So consumers have access to many products and services at lower prices because of there is a competitive atmosphere is there between these MNCs. If we see uh, an example of a mobile phone which is uh, manufactured by Apple, it will cost minimum at least 50,000. With the same features, if a Chinese company like Redmi or Oppo or something other, some other company, they will manufacture at low cost, at least minimum price 10,000. So the consumers, the customers will get the best product at lower price. So this will help to use best products with cheaper rates. So this will benefit for the middle class people. So producers and consumers may have better access to capital, technology, marketing experience, and managerial expertise. So the dispersion of economic activity globally creates job opportunities for many citizens of those host countries that have received inflows of foreign direct investments. So, ideally, the presence of MNCs should increase the level of competition in local markets. So, the critics of MNCs argue that they fail to recognize the rights of workers and exclude union members from their facilities. So, the MNCs engage in environmentally unsustainable practices, etc. So, the most common criticism of MNCs is that though their subsidiaries are subject to local laws and regulations, local authorities are unable to counter MNC lobbying for special treatment. So, MNCs, unlike local firms, can credibly threaten the state authorities to move to a new location if they do not get what they want. So, they may target to they may force it to the governments to achieve their goals. So the the condition state policies too. Thus, in the industrialized global world, MNCs and MNC led globalization are blamed for their role in environmental degradation, exploitation of third world workers, undermining democracy, tax evasion, and the hollowing out of the middle classes. So sometimes MNCs help a developing host country by increasing investment, income, employment in its economy. So they contribute to the development of the country through transfer of technology, finance, and modern management. So MNCs promote exports of the host country, and also they will support imports and exports with their companies. So globalization has handed multinationals too much power. Therefore, the need for strong states is warranted. MNCs are potentially important actors for better or for worse. So, uh, these MNCs are the vehicles of globalization. Globalization has opened the boundaries of the state. Globalization affects everyone, individuals, communities, countries, regions, and institutions. So, globalization tends to shape not only the organizational character of the administrative state, but also the managerial dimension of politics and administration. It is also increasingly recognized that good governance is significant in a country's developmental processes to ensure that globalization benefits all. So, the state, in partnership with business and civil society, has a key role to play in attaining a good life for its citizens. So, globalization has promoted a higher quality of life with all comforts, though it widened the gap between the rich and the poor. Globalization has changed the role of the, the state in many ways. It is often seen to have lowered the importance of the state. Not all of these negative images are justified. Uh, so we have one more concept, that is unit 4, regional organizations. In this chapter we are going to discuss two regional organizations, which namely Sarc and Asian. Sarc means South Asian Association of Regional Cooperation, and Asian means Association of Southeast Asian Nations. So these two regional organizations are established for the economic and regional cooperation within this region. So, in this chapter, we are going to discuss about the establishment of Sarc and their role of Sarc and their objectives, and the structure of this Sarc. So, the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, or Sarc, is the world's biggest. Just a second. So, Sarc is full form is the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. So it is the one of the biggest regional organization in international relations. So as we discussed, United Nations organization is one of the famous international organization. Here the SARC is a regional organizations with limited members. So uh, uh, also in this regional organizations list, SARC is the one of the world's biggest organization in terms of population. It has 22% of total population in the world. So its member states are at the time of establishment there are seven. Now 8 countries are there, include Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal, the Maldives, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. So South Asia is the important area in terms of international peace, security, economy, and resources. One fourth of total population of world live in this area. So in this area, natural resources and water resources are huge, and thus the probability of development is very much. At the same time, this area is famous in the world for poorness, unemployment, terrorism, and political disturbance. So the regional organization role has been increased in the globalization time. So the interdependence of nations has been increased. If SARC member help each of its member country economically, then poverty and illiteracy can easily be reduced. So SARC members have to take example how European Union and Asian are succeeding in its goal. So now it is clear that economic development will take place when globalization and regional help take part in this regard. So the regional organizations are specifically established for the regional cooperation in terms of uh, economy relations, economic relations, trade relations, imports and exports, and sharing information like sharing science and technology with within the regional organizations. So there are several problems also there with this regional organization, and also there are uh, the growth the growth of their economy in the every country who are in the organization also differ from one another. So the growth of regional organizations also appears to be one of the significant trends in post Second World War international relations. As we discussed, United Nations organization also established after the Second World War only. So apart from the United Nations organization, there are several regional organizations also established. So the formation of the SARC is the South Asian Association of Regional Corporation was established when its charter was formally adopted on 8th December of 1985 by the heads of states or governments of Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Maldives, Nepal, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. In April 2007, at the initiative of India, Afghanistan became its eighth member. So the observers are Australia, China, the European Union, Iran, Japan, Mauritius, Myanmar, South Korea, and United States. So the South Asian neighbors began to take initiative towards regional cooperation in the 1980s, primarily under the initiative of President Ziaur Rahman of Bangladesh. Between 1970 to 1980, he paid visits to Nepal, Pakistan, India, and Sri Lanka to concretize the idea of cooperation among the South Asian neighbors. So, several foreign secretary level meetings held by the first meeting of the foreign ministers at New Delhi in August 1983. It was at this meeting that the foreign ministers adopted the declaration of the SARC. So, after this meeting, they also launched the integrated program of action in 9 agreed areas. So, these agreed areas of cooperation under integrated program of action included agriculture, communications, education, culture and sports, environment and meteorology, health and population activities, and rural development. So, if we discuss about the primary objectives of this organization, SARC, the organization is established for to promote the welfare of the peoples of South Asia and to improve their quality of life in all various. So, to accelerate economic growth, social progress, and cultural development in the region, and to provide all individuals uh, to provide all the opportunities like employment and free migration for the purpose of education, cross-border education system, and also cross-border labor. So on. So, to promote and strengthen collective self-reliance among the countries of South Asia, to contribute to mutual trust, understanding, and appreciation of one another problems, and also to promote active collaboration and mutual assistance in the economic, social, cultural, technical, and scientific fields. So, in this organization, within this organization, many countries also try to support each other problems during economic crisis or other border disputes or other ways. So if there are any problems regarding between the neighboring countries, they may help to reduce the problem or to solve the problem. They can mediate with those who are in conflict zone. So at that time, like regional organization, even UN were also there to resolve these conflict issues. So if we take an example of border disputes between any neighboring countries, like if we take an example of India and Pakistan, we have a border dispute from the independence period. We have till now we are facing border disputes with Pakistan in the areas of Kashmir or some other places. So like many countries are also facing this type of uh, border disputes. So and also to strengthen cooperation with other developing countries, to strengthen cooperation among themselves in international forums on matters of common interest, and also to cooperate with international and regional organizations with similar aims and purpose. So the principles of SARC are cooperation within the framework of the association is based on respect for the principles of sovereignty, equality, territorial integrity, political independence, non interference in the internal affairs of the other states, and mutual benefit. Such cooperation is to complement and not to substitute bilateral or multilateral cooperation. And also, such cooperation should be consistent with bilateral and multilateral obligations of the member states. So the decisions at all levels of SARC are taken on the basis of unanimity. Bilateral and continuous issues are excluded from the deliberations of the association. So if we discuss about this structural organizational structure, the highest authority of association rests with the heads of the state or government who meet annually at summit level, although the SARC charter requires the heads of the government to meet once a year. So the summits have generally taken place approximately for every 18 months. So to date, 18 months, uh, 18 meetings of the heads of government have been held in all the capital cities of this regional organization. So India, including Afghanistan, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Maldives, declared not to attend SARC summit due to 2016 Uri attack, surgical strike. So, Pakistan postponed the SARC summit and announced that new dates would be released soon, but it did not happen. In 2016, the 19th summit of SARC scheduled to host in Pakistan. So, that's the reason after the incidents happened between India and Pakistan, India decided to not to attend this summit. So the SARC if we see the progress of regional cooperation of this institution, uh, many years happened after the establishment of this SARC. South Asia have realized the need of cooperation, but the progress in this regard has been quite slow. This slow progress has been attributed to the difference in the approaches, attitudes, perceptions of the countries of the region. It is argued that this was quite natural in view of the different socio-economic character, varying geopolitical and strategic objectives of the countries of the region. So, if we take an example of Bangladesh favored cooperation in the economic sphere to start with, which could be subsequently extended to the social and cultural spheres. So, Sri Lanka, on the other hand, pleaded for more comprehensive cooperation and favored extension of cooperation to the political fields as well. Initially, Pakistan's attitude was more restrained and it wanted regional cooperation to be limited only to 4 out of the 11 areas identified in the Bangladesh working paper. So, if we discuss about the achievements and future prospects of SARC, despite the slow progress of the regional cooperation in South Asia, the actual working of the SARC since its establishment has raised high hope for peace in this region bedeviled by conflicts of all kinds. So, as we discussed, United Nations organization is there for protection of international peace and security. Even this regional organization also followed the same. So these regional institutions also works for the attain the goals and objectives of the United Nations organization. So the SARC has not played any active role in resolving the differences among its members. Yet its periodical meetings provide an opportunity for private consultation among the leaders of various member states. It is true that the present South Asian regional cooperation is far from the state where uh, European Union and Asian have reached, yet it cannot be denied that a small beginning has been made in this direction. So many developments also there, many failures also there. The presence of conditions like fertile soil, vast tidal energy, forest resources, unexploited wealth of the ocean, presence of raw materials essential for development, etc., are favorable factors which can greatly contribute to cooperation among the states of the region. So, SARC has made considerable progress since its establishment. Still, it is confronted with a number of challenges which it must overcome if it has to survive and progress successfully. So, the disparity in the regional resources of various member states hampers the growth of true cooperation among the members. India, in comparison with other countries of the region, is not only very large in size but also possesses disproportionate natural resources. As a result of the smaller states always suffer from the fear that membership of SARC would enhance their dependence on the region. So, SARC is trying to promote the welfare of the people of the South Asia and to achieve economic growth, social progress, and cultural development in the region. It is also trying to contribute the mutual trust, understanding, and the appreciation of uh, one another's problems. It is also trying to strengthen cooperation with other developing countries. So, if we discuss about the uh, role of these SARC, main problems in the way of SARC, there are several problems are there. and time of its establishment, Sarc is facing many problems. The relationship of India and Pakistan has especially affected the way of Sarc. The main problems in the way, the tension between India and Pakistan, the relationship between India and Pakistan were never good. The problem of Kashmir is as a volcano which always disturbs the progress of both nations, and also interference of superpowers. Some developed nations always interrupting the Sarc nations, especially China and America, are responsible in the relationship of India and Pakistan. Now China is giving special attention in the terms of good relationship with Sarc nations. It is good for future. And also there is political disturbance is there. The Sarc nations are politically disturbed. The democracy in Pakistan is not established yet. Nepal, Afghanistan, Bangladesh also politically disturbed. India is also disturbed due to terrorism. Political disturbance always affected the Sarc. Due to this, Sarc nations have no more faith with each other. The terrorism, the problem of terrorism is uh, decreasing the role of this Sarc. The all member nations of Sarc are affected with terrorism. World communities have worried about the that if the nuclear weapons be used by terrorists, then what will happen? So the probability of development also there. Sarc has great probability of development. This area has great capacity to generate hydropower. Nepal and Bhutan can do more in this area. Sarc nations have to think about open the ancient Silk Route. If this route will open, the economic development will increase. Geographically connected nations have to link with road. Asian Development Bank has made a transport blueprint for Sarc in this between Colombo and Chennai train route, between Nepal and Bhutan air route, between Lahore and Agartala bus route has been planned. So these types of planning have to be executed. Then only the relations between member states will increase. So at the international scene, there are many players like many international and regional organizations are there in the fields of economic cooperation. Like as we said, MNC is also one of the key key players for the regional cooperation. So uh, finally, this Sarc is especially established for the purpose of regional cooperation. So we have one more regional organization is there in the same concept, the organization of ASEAN. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations is a regional organization which was established to promote political and social stability amid rising tensions among the Asia Pacific's post-colonial states. So the motto of ASEAN is one vision, one identity, one community. So uh, Asia Asian organization is having 10 members. So in 1967, ASEAN was established with the signing of the ASEAN Declaration, which is placed on Bangkok. So by its founding members, founding fathers of ASEAN are Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand. So uh, the primary objectives of this organization to accelerate the economic growth, social progress, and cultural development for a prosperous and peaceful community of South Asian nations, and also to promote regional peace and stability through abiding respect for justice and the rule of law and adherence to the principles of United Nations Charter, and also to promote active collaboration and mutual assistance on the matters of common interest in the economic, social, cultural, technical, and scientific and administrative fields. So, to collaborate more effectively for the greater utilization of agriculture and industries, the expansion of their trade, the improvement of transportation and communication facilities, and the raising of the living standards of the people, and also to promote Southeast Asian studies, to maintain close and beneficial cooperation with existing international and regional organization. So there are the fundamental principles also there. If we discuss about these Asian fundamental principles, which is placed in 1976, the mutual respect for independence, sovereignty, equality, territorial integrity, and national identity of all nations, and also the right of every state to lead its national existence free from external interference, subversion of or coercion. None interferes in the internal affairs of one another. So they should respect each other. They should respect each other's sovereignty and integrity, and settlement of differences and disputes by peaceful manner. So if there are conflicts are there between this organization or between the neighbors, they should come and discuss to solve the problem. So they should not go for the war zone. So reunification of the treat or use of the force and effective cooperation among themselves. So remaining uh, uh, objectives and functioning of this Asian, we will discuss on tomorrow's class. So now I am concluding the session, and thank you for your participation. Thank you all. I am concluding the session.